Hi kiddos, Hetzel here. Wanted to make you a video today of how do I determine what text structure an essay is. And then I wanted to walk you through one of your assignments that you're going to have to do this week called the It Says, I Say So activity. So the first thing that you need to know is that this is an example essay and I have already pre-read through the essay, okay? So I do know what's coming at me. I always suggest that you read an essay through once just to kind of get background information and kind of just familiarize yourself with the text before you really start annotating. So now that I've done that, I'm ready to start annotating and really start figuring out which text structure is being used in this essay. So the title of this essay is If Only They Knew. Well, sometimes we can get a lot of really good information from our titles. Sometimes it will say how to introduce your boyfriend to your mom. That is going to give us a really big clue that that's a process essay. So the first step is always looking at the essay's title and seeing if we can get any big major clues from the title. So the title, If Only They Knew, I'm not really getting any specific hits right off of me as I'm reading that. So it's not reading right away as a specific text structure. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to start with the first introductory paragraph. And I'm just going to walk you through my thinking here, and you're going to be able to see my annotations pop up on the screen. Anorexia nervosa is the eating disorder that I struggled with for the majority of my middle school years and a portion of my high school years. My classmates at Riverview High School were aware of my disorder, and it greatly affected the way they treated me. At the start of my junior year, I transferred to Madison High School. I decided not to tell anyone at that school about my eating disorder since I was mostly recovered by that time. Even though my friends at Riverview and Madison all showed concern for my well being, their approaches differed greatly, especially in lunchroom behavior, conversation, and individual opinions about my personality and character. As I'm starting to read this, guys, I'm noticing right away that anorexia nervosa could be a couple of different things as far as text structures. So this could be a possible problem. This could also be a possible cause effect. Because of anorexia nervosa, something else happened. I do see right away that we have Riverview. I'm going to comment that that is the first school. And Madison is the new school. Ooh, one too many O's there. There we go. Okay. And then even though my friends at Riverview and Madison all showed concern, so here we've got both. Here we see our first similarity. Students, or friends, I should say, friends at both schools showed concern for her well-being. So that's the first thing that we're getting that shows similarity. Now, as we continue on to read, at Riverview, lunchtime was usually a nightmare for me. I would enter the cafeteria, and in my mind, all eyes would fix themselves upon my gangly figure. I would take my place at a table full of friends and try to enjoy a normal lunch. The problem was that I was not always eating lunch, and that was a greatly concern to my and that greatly concerned my friends. They would watch to make sure I was eating properly, almost forcing food into my mouth. Sometimes I would pretend to eat and drop pieces of food into a napkin and throw it out with the trash. When some of my friends found out, they were furious, which seemed to cause even more trouble. Lunch was obviously not my favorite time of day, and it involved a lot of stress. Now, as I read that paragraph, I see a couple things going on. In my head, I see, I'm going to even insert a little drawing here for us. And I see make a square here. And we're going to put a text box up here. Riverview. All right. So then let's put another text box here. So lunchtime was very stressful. Pretend to eat food. She would pretend to eat food. She felt all eyes were fixed on her. A lot of the conversation was about eating, ... Okay, I'm going to save that and close it, and it's going to go in here, and that's okay because these are my drawings. This is my copy of the text. You can always do this. You can always write things on your copies of things, all right? So that goes there. Strangely, I stopped dreading lunch so much when I started at Madison. No one knew that I had an eating disorder, so they did not care what I ate. This lifted an enormous amount of stress off from my life. I finally had the freedom to eat what I wanted without being harassed. It was still hard for me to eat in front of other people, which is common for other anorexics, but I was able to put some fears aside. I began to enjoy lunch instead of disposing of it. And when we're saying disposing of it, she would actually just throw her lunch away. So rather than throwing her lunch away, she actually began to enjoy it. So I'm going to come back up here to this drawing. And now over here, I'm going to make, not a picture. I want another shape. And I'm going to put it over here. And I'm going to put another text box up here. Madison. We need another text box. No one knew that she had an eating disorder, right? No one talked to her about what she was eating. She started enjoying lunch and actually eating it, even though it was hard. Eat in front of others. So we can see that she is doing better. Remember, guys, I'm just making this drawing and making these annotations here so that I can make sure I understand what's happening in the article. These are just skills that good readers have, that they are able to break things apart like this, okay? All right, so I'm going to save that drawing. And then we're going to go on. She started to enjoy lunch instead of just disposing it. With my Riverview friends, instead of chatting about boys or other girl things, we would discuss my disorder. Girls would follow me into the bathroom. Instead of styling their hair, they would check to see if I was throwing up. We never got to gossip together like normal middle school girls because we had to focus on anorexia instead. All I wanted to talk about was how cute Mike Reynolds looked that day. Okay, so now when I'm reading this little paragraph, it's a short paragraph, but it's very telling. There's a few words in here that are really reaching out to me as signal words, and that is instead. This seems to me like it's a signal word, as in signal word showing contrast. Okay, so there's that one, and then we've got another instead here, and the repetition of instead again. Repetition of, I can spell really well today, guys. Repetition of instead really makes me, instead makes me think this is starting to show differences between the two schools. There we go. All right. And then again, a third time. Third time, I'm going to put stars. Third instead. This should be really showing me that instead is a really, really powerful word here. I was totally shocked to find that all the life and death conversations disappeared when I went to Madison. It was so much fun to talk about the little things that occurred in everyday life. The subject of eating disorders rarely came up, and when it did, I was not the focus. I loved having the freedom of going to the bathroom without being followed. High school is meant to be filled with frivolous chatter, and at Madison, I participated in more than my fair share. Again, guys, we see a contrast here from instead. There are different types of words here. We would talk about throwing up here. We never got to gossip. We're down here, we're seeing that the topic of eating disorders rarely came up, and that I got to go to the bathroom without being followed. So this is really where I'm starting to really think this might be a compare-contrast. Thinking this might be a compare-contrast essay by the tone and words being used. Let me scroll down here so you can see that comment there. Now, notice we're coming back to Riverview. And at this next paragraph, we're going back to Madison. So I'm going to assume without even reading this fully right now, that this is going to be all about Riverview and this is going to be all about Madison. So I'm going to make a note that I think the author is switching back and forth between schools. I think this is showing me that there are differences between the two schools. We're honing in on what we think this essay is here, but let's read the paragraphs to make sure. I found the students at Riverview had made many generalizations about my character, and their behavior was guided by those generalizations. Their natural instincts told them to help me. I appreciated their concern, but they never took the time to find out who I was as a person. They knew me only as an anorexic. My friends cared about my health, but they failed to care about me. Truthfully, all I wanted was for them to love me for me and not to obsess over my shortcomings. The people at Madison took the time to know who I really was. They had no idea that I'd been an anorexic, so that particular stereotype did not color their opinions of me. I was finally recognized for my talents and my achievements and not my failures. I was honored as a good student. I was honored as a cheerleader, and no one cared how I looked in my skirt. I could finally be viewed as a real person. I liked the way that people saw me at Madison, and I was no longer afraid to show my true character and personality. I think we're really, really, really getting to something here. The comparisons between Riverview and Madison going back and forth, showing the differences in her friends at Riverview versus how she was treated at Madison when no one knew she was a anorexic really makes a big difference, guys. In our last little paragraph here, my days as an anorexic taught me many lessons that I would not trade for the world. They taught me about life and how to be a better friend. I learned about the joy of routine tasks such as eating lunch. I learned to appreciate the simple things in life, like gossip shared between teenage girls. I gained an understanding of what true character is. I hold no grudges against those who so desperately tried to help me. In fact, I owe them a great debt. And I appreciate the people who helped me to see that there is more to life than having an eating disorder. So I think I have a really strong compare-contrast essay here. And now I want to move over to your actual assignment for the week, which is the It Says, I Say So activity. So I'm going to pull that up here. Give me just a second. Okay, kiddos, so here is your actual assignment for the week. The It Says, I Say, and So. I'm going to walk you through how I want you to tackle this assignment. it should actually be fairly helpful for you to determining the text structure. So let's take a look at the table together first so we can figure out exactly what needs to be done here. So step one on this is where we are going to write the question provided. Okay, so on ours, you can see we have an example above ours, and our question is actually right here. Which text structure is being used in the essay? So step number 2 is find the information from the text that will help you answer this question. Then think about what you know about this information, and so combine what the text says and what you know about the subject to come up with your own answer. So for example, the question is, why did Goldilocks break Baby Bear's chair? It says she sits in the baby chair because she's not a baby. She is a young girl. Baby chairs aren't very big, therefore babies, they are for babies, but she is bigger, so she weighs more. Therefore, Goldilocks is too heavy for the chair, and she breaks Baby Bear's chair. So that's an example outside of our essays. What I want to do now is walk you through how to do which text structure is being used in the essay. So I'm going to come back over, maybe. Nope. I gotta find my thing. Where is it? Where is it? There it is. All right, so I'm in different windows. I'm going to try to bring this one over here real quick. Nope, not this one. Get out of that one. Sorry, guys. Give me just 1 second here. I'm going to try to bring this one over here. That's still not in the right place. Okay, good enough. So which text structure is being used? What does it say? What does the text say? So I'm going to come back over here and I'm going into my text. And I'm going to look for specific examples from the text that will help me. Okay? So at the very beginning up here, we've got our little notes that we've taken. And we can say at Riverview, lunchtime was usually a nightmare for me. I would enter the cafeteria, so on our chart, I'm going to say, it says that lunch at Riverview was a nightmare. Okay, I'm going to, then what do I know about this? I know that a nightmare is not a good thing, and that it is usually scary. I'm also going to look down at where it says, strangely, I stopped dreading lunch when I started Madison. So I'm going to come back over to my it says, and in the same box, it says, I stopped dreading lunch at Madison. Well, when someone stops dreading something, that's usually a good thing. It means they're overcoming a fear. Okay, so overcoming a fear. And that I can see that when she is saying Riverview and then Madison, Riverview and then Madison, I can say that seeing the differences in how the writer felt about lunch was a big clue to which text structure was being used. We're not seeing anorexia nervosa exposed as a problem here. We are not focusing on anorexia as the problem. We're focusing on the friends at the school. So seeing that the friends at school were treating her 2 different ways, is a really big hint to me that we might really have a compare contrast. Watching the essay go back from Riverview to Madison, going back and forth, that's something that I see as a really big hint. All right, so then let's check out something else. All right, so if it says, let's see here, the use of the insteads, okay? We're going to use that as a signal word. So on here, we're going to say, it says instead is used in 3 times in one small paragraph. Might be a hint. Oh, wait, this would actually go over here. Okay, so I know that repetition can be a sign of importance. And here, instead, is a signal word for the text structure, compare, contrast. So therefore, I believe this is a compare, contrast essay. All right, so now we have 2 reasons, but we really want to come up with a third. So let's go back over to the essay. We can also find here, as we're reading, the tone of the writer changes. We see that she was starting to enjoy lunch at Madison rather than just disposing of it. We can see that the life and death conversations disappeared when I went to Madison. It was so much fun to talk about the little things. This is a change in the writer's tone. A change in the writer's tone like this can definitely signal a change in how she feels about things. So therefore, the tone of the writer can really help us fill out our chart. So it says the life and death conversations stopped and fun conversations began. This shows me, so it says, I say that fun, or I say that a change in conversations is small, but a change in how you feel about those conversations can really make a difference in how you write. So the tone that I see changing and the negative tone goes away from Ridgeview and a positive tone starts with Madison. Seeing the change between Riverview and Madison is another reason I believe it is a compare contrast. And all 3 of these reasons, guys, are excellent reasons for saying that this is a compare contrast essay. So therefore, you got it right. It's a compare contrast essay. So now you are going to read through the essay examples and you will be figuring out which text structure is used. You need to determine which text structure is being used with the help of your graphic organizer. And this, it says, I say so. And what you should find out is that you are really easily figuring out what essay or which text structure, excuse me, the essay is. As always, if you have any questions or need any help, I'm here. But I just really wanted you to see how I went through thinking of the it says, I say so. All right, guys. Hope that helps. Take care. Bye.